Welcome to the Ask Amanda Show, where we solve everyday problems for the small business owner. I'm your host, Amanda Benson-Tilch. On today's show, you'll get nuggets of inspiration, access to experts, and answers to those burning questions preventing you from growth. Remember to listen all the way until the end, as that's usually where the nuggets are. Let's get into it.
Human resources is one of the most important areas any company must have. With over 10 years of dedicated service to the businesses of Santa Clarita Valley, 6 Degrees HR Consulting is the go-to company for all things HR. For those all-important handbooks, harassment trainings, policies, and employee relations, give 6 Degrees a call. 661-432-1088.
This episode of the Ask Amanda Show is brought to you by your hometown high fire area specialist since 2014, Damian White with Farmers Insurance. Damian White has been successful in helping SCB friends and family obtain insurance while others couldn't. With Farmers Insurance and their affiliate partners, Damian has quick turnaround times. They're fully staffed with 2 locations ready to serve you. You can reach Damian by calling 661-394-2802.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Ask Amanda Show. I'm really excited kicking off my season 4. This is the first episode, and I'm sitting here with the owner of EVERPREP. This is Matt Peyton. Matt, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
Thank you for being here, taking the time out today to tell your story. We are just going to jump into it, and I really want to start with you telling us why you started EVERPREP. And let's really quick talk about what EVERPREP is, because it's a great meal prep restaurant. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and
You're
congratulations, season 4, and the set looks amazing. So,
thank you.
Fantastic job to you and the work that you've done, and thanks for letting me be a part of it. Yeah. So, EVERPREP, our goal is to try to help people eat well. So, ultimately, what we are is we are a custom meal prep restaurant. So we have a restaurant storefront. You can kind of think about us, if you haven't been in, you can think about us like a Chipotle of meal prep, if you will. So that you can walk in, we bring everything in fresh, we cook it on site, we get it back down refrigerated, and it lets customers come in and build all of their meals exactly to their calorie and macronutrient goals.
Yes.
So you're going to pick your protein, you're going to pick your starches, your veggies, your toppings, your sauces. You build as few or as many as you want to. No minimums, no subscriptions. And I think that's really where we're trying to differentiate ourselves versus all of the other meal prep companies out there. So in doing our market research, we saw right away the one thing that causes people to shy away from meal prep companies and or to quit meal prep companies is the commitment that you have to make through subscription.
Yes.
Then you're also pot committed to whatever their menu is,
Yes.
right? So you go on that week and you're like, oh, I have to get 10 meals even if I don't like what's being offered.
Right. Your freezer gets jam-packed with stuff you haven't eaten.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so we saw an opportunity in the marketplace to do it different. The restaurant storefront is something that customers love.
Yes.
Because they can come in and they can see the food
And you're
themselves.
located, so you have one location, and you're located here on Magic Mountain Parkway.
Yeah, that's right. We're in the Target Shopping Center, Magic Mountain Parkway in McBean. We always say we're right between Big Five and Big Chicken. People sometimes joke we should have called ourselves Big EVERPREP. It would have been a great trifecta there. But yeah, right in between those two, very convenient for customers to stop by here in Santa Clarita.
What I love about what your product is that you can see everything fresh. It's all freshly cooked. It smells wonderful when you walk in.
Yeah.
But then also that you weigh everything. So you really can dive in on your macros and your calories, and just get everything. I mean, I think it's so smart.
Yeah, one of the things that I think you always have to be thoughtful about, there's a lot of meal prep companies out there who will tell you, they use words like macro smart or calorie smart. Everybody's different. Everybody's lean body mass is different. Everybody's activity level is different.
Right.
So the calories that you need, the macronutrients that you need are going to be specific to you.
Yeah.
And so, it's always tough to eat and then figure out, okay, now how am I going to make that meal fit into whatever my calorie and macronutrients targets were.
Right.
And so if you can just build the meal to begin with to exactly what it is that you're trying to accomplish, then you're significantly ahead of the game.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot. We're going to talk about a lot of this, but because especially if you're looking to lose weight or gain muscle, there's different needs.
Yeah.
But when you sign up for a meal prep service, you're just getting what you get.
Yes, correct. And some will boast high protein or different specifics, but again, it's very limited in terms of how much customization there is.
Yeah.
Whereas what we're trying to offer is 100% customization.
Yeah. The other part I like about this customization is that I have a bunch of people in my household, but like my son eats just like steak and meat, steak and chicken or whatever. And I don't eat, I'm a pescatarian, so I just eat fish. So we can go there and get completely different, items that we need. But also when you subscribe to like a subscription plan, meal prep, you don't get those. You either choose like the meat option or the vegetarian. You can't choose either one. I've struggled with this for a long time.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, they're just kind of sending you their specific meal plan for that week. Yeah. So I again, agreed. We offer a tremendous amount of variety. Chicken comes in 6 flavors, tri-tip in 6 different flavors,
and your
shrimp in
sauces
multiple
are
flavors.
so good.
Yeah, you know what? We continue to get hounded by customers to jar the sauces. So I think that's the next thing.
Yeah.
There's a couple of. One guy told me he would put the soy miso on a shoe and eat it.
That soy miso is so good.
I've got somebody driving like 2 hours to get the charred jalapeno. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah, the sauces really are the sort of the MVP for a lot of people. So which we understand. They're fantastic.
Well, I mean, listen, you got to stand out somehow. It's not just the service you're providing; it's the quality that you have too. And if somebody loves something, go all in on it. It's like you have enough people asking for it.
We really hope to be all the above. I mean, you touched on something there that I would want to highlight, and that is around the service. One of the things that you don't get with most of these other meal prep companies, it's not personal, right? It's between you and their website.
Yep. Or the app.
Or the app, yeah, exactly. So, when you come into EVERPREP, one of the things we talk about all the time, we really want to be relational and not transactional.
Yes.
Right? So, if you go into a Chipotle, they're going to ask you, what do you want, right?
Yeah.
We really want to understand why you're there. Are you just looking to be a little bit healthier? Are you looking to lose weight? Are you looking to gain weight? Are you looking to maintain? Do you have some health issues that maybe the doctor has talked with you about in terms of your blood pressure, other things?
Yeah.
What's brought you in? How can we be a part of helping you get to the solution that you're looking for?
Yeah, and that is a service that I got the first time I walked in too.
Yeah, that's great. I love to hear when that happens.
You guys
certainly.
asked me all sorts of questions, and I was like, oh, this is like more than what you would think.
Yeah, it can be tough. You're running a business. You want to do it as efficiently as you can. And so you're certainly always have an eye on payroll, right? But part of that is we've got to make sure that we're staffing appropriately so that the customer really does feel like, we're establishing that relationship. We sort of joke around a little bit that we want it to be like Cheers and hey Norm, right? Like,
welcome back.
But there's so much repeat business. We know a lot of customers by their order, right? The order pops up on the screen and you're like, oh, there's Susie, right? Like because they're ordering every single week.
Yeah.
We get to build those relationships with them. You've been in one of the things when customers order online, we never want that pickup to be them just grabbing it out of the fridge and walking out. If we can, we're getting around the counter, we're engaging with them.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much great feedback has come our way as a result of making that point to put their meals into the bag for them. That's sort of the opportunity they have to tell you that, hey, something on the website wasn't quite right. It was a little bit tough to order this thing, or the sauce was a little off last week. And so much learning from just making sure that you're taking a little bit of time with the customer.
Yep.
You build that relationship, and they're much more willing to tell you about how to get better.
Yeah.
And frankly, what we find when we're building those relationships is then they really start rooting for you.
Yes.
And when they're rooting for you, then they're going to be really honest with you about what you can do better. And so we get fantastic feedback that way.
I think that's so great that you allow for that opportunity to happen in your place. I think it's all about relationships. And from a business standpoint, yes, you have to be concerned about payroll and overhead and everything else that comes, like, insurance, like all that stuff that comes with it, right? But when you can dive in on hiring right,
yes,
all those things become worth it because those people, the employees, bring the customers back.
Yeah.
And they make them feel welcomed and they make them feel warm. I just did this article about hospitality, like bringing hospitality back. Because what is today? Everything's a self-checkout world.
Yeah.
Everything, go to any grocery store. They've eliminated almost every cashier or checkout. I mean, everything has become the self-checkout. And so, or book your class on an app, or, order your meal on an app. I just went to the Habit the other day. They have all these self-checkout things now to use. It's like we're just eliminating people. And when if you're doing the opposite of that, you're doing something right, because we are starving for interaction.
Yeah. It's a difficult thing to do. It's a tough needle to thread for sure.
Yes.
And
it's expensive.
Well, and it just got more expensive.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw, but beginning next year in April in California, food service minimum wage is going to go to $20 an hour. And so it's very, very expensive to try to be able to offer that level of service. And you spoke to hiring correctly. One of the things that we've done, it was very important to us to have a job that people really want
Yeah.
And that once they were there, it's one that they really want to keep.
Yes.
Because then all those things, it's a hard job. Like
Yeah.
we ask a lot of our team.
Yeah.
We ask them to be very efficient. We ask them, whether.
I mean, first of all, you should ask them a lot. It should be a hard job. If
Yes.
they're going to be getting paid $20 an hour,
Yeah.
it should be a hard job. If you expect a job to be easy and you're getting paid between, I don't know, $15 and $20 an hour,
Yeah.
it's a joke.
While I 100% agree with you, the reality I think is that you not only have to provide that for people, but you also have to remind them.
Yes.
And there is an ROI. So when you're willing to invest more than others into making the job great, you will attract better talent,
Yeah.
and you will keep better talent,
I
and
agree.
they will work harder, and
Yeah.
they will do a better job to make sure. One of the things that
Yeah.
I'm so pleased about is that if you go and you look at all of our Yelp reviews, which by the way are fantastic, but and a lot of people talk about the food, and the food is great, but what always makes me smile is that our team is always talked about so
Mentioned.
highly
That's so
in
great.
terms of how hospitable they are, in terms of how comfortable the environment is, in terms of the time that they're willing to take to make sure that the customer understands how it all works. And when I see that and I see how friendly friendly is all over
Yes.
all of the
Yeah.
all of the reviews, and that just that's we're hitting the target. I think
That's the culture that you've created, and so that is what it's about. I mean, good for you, because
Yeah.
that's hard to do.
For sure.
Yeah.
You don't get them all right,
No,
and
of
sometimes you
course.
get that phone call that makes you, all of a sudden you
Yeah.
feel like, oh no, it's
we're
broken.
Human.
Right?
Like
Yeah.
somebody had a bad
Yeah.
day or whatever,
Yeah,
right? We're
for sure.
human. But I mean, I feel like the conversation's going on, and I
Sure.
wanted to start off with
Yeah,
why did you
of
start
course.
EverPrep? Because from an entrepreneurial standpoint, this was your first business.
Yes.
This is your first business that you've started.
Yeah, in terms of ownership, for
And
sure.
a little bit later in your life.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
Not
so
to say that you're old. I'm just saying later in your
no,
life.
no. Well, both are probably true, but it comes from a lot of different places, and so I think there's a lot of different things that I think in God's providence kind of came together. I know I've shared with you my own health story, which is and this goes back 10 plus years ago, but I was incredibly unhealthy.
Unhealthy
I was
is the
eating.
good word,
I was
yeah.
eating poorly. 2-income household, small kids, super busy. Lots of fast food in our life. At the time, I was smoking. I smoked a pack a day back then.
So crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably about 80 pounds heavier than you see me here
Wow.
today. And
You
I
would
was,
look like a different person.
when I show people pictures, they can't
Yeah.
even believe it.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just fall out laughing. But most people are like, "No way,
Yeah.
that was you."
But fast
and-
food is convenient when we have two.
Oh, for sure.
Both of you are you and your wife are working,
Yeah.
and you have 2 small kids. It's like fast food is convenient.
Yeah, not just
Yeah.
convenient, but addictive on purpose,
Yes.
right? They put a lot of
Right.
stuff in the
There
food, the
you go.
sodium and the other things that make you crave it. And so you want to go back to it over and over again. Man, I was drinking so much soda back then.
Oh, man.
I can't even tell you the last time I had a soda now.
Yeah.
But back then it was all the time, every day. So chasing my son around the backyard one day, he's a senior in high school now. Then he was 3 or 4. And I couldn't. I had to stop and go sit down.
Oh, man.
I was short of breath, and I was getting lightheaded,
Yeah.
and I just decided this is not how this is going to go, right? And so that was sort of the beginning of my health journey. Was next day, quit smoking, started
Wow,
eating better.
Good for you.
I think the first thing I did was like P90X or something like
Oh,
that.
I
I was like,
remember that,
right,
yeah.
I was right away like I'm going to start working out. And I did begin to lose a lot of weight really quickly. And then, I could give you a lot of detail, but over the years, it just became a fitness and a health journey for me where I
Yeah.
became a student of both. They
Now,
both
did
became,
your wife support that as well?
Oh, 100%,
Okay, that's
right?
good.
Yeah, like-
it's helpful to have somebody on your team that's
Yeah.
rooting you on and doing it with you or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, definitely rooting me on, and you start to look better too. So when
Well,
your wife's
sure.
giving you compliments and she's,
Yeah.
is appreciative of the things that you're doing, and I mean, look, when you're feeling better, when you're in good health,
Yeah.
you can show up for your family in ways that you can't when you're not.
And show up at work and show up for your, coworkers, everything else.
Yes.
Yeah, your friends. Yes.
Absolutely, it's really truly one of the missions of the restaurant is and look, I don't think. I don't know that any of us is going to add a day to our lives based upon the way that we eat or that we exercise, but in each and every day we're going to feel a lot better.
Yeah.
And be able to do things that we want to be able to do, and mostly it's really about how can you hopefully contribute at work in your family in the ways that you want to be able to, and so
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a big part of it. Student fitness and health. That obviously for me meant, eating differently. I traveled a lot. It became, I was still a busy lifestyle for sure. So eating healthy is difficult, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
trying to meal prep at home is a tremendous
And you
amount
were
of work.
commuting too with work, right?
Yeah,
A
so
little bit.
for a long time I did, but even
Which
when
makes it hard.
yeah, even when I
Yeah.
shortened the commute, still very long days, so the result of that, and still busy with kids, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
got family. Life is busier than it's ever been for us, and it's hard to slow it down because the kind of the world around us, in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
makes it difficult for us to slow it down. And so, being able to be really committed to eating healthy when there are no good options,
Yeah.
right? Nobody's making it easy, and so. That ultimately resulted in me looking for a number of different solutions, whether it was doing it myself or even trying some of these other meal prep companies. But there was a lot of challenges there.
Yeah.
A lot of challenges in even understanding what was in your food. If you're doing
Yes.
it yourself, it's a tremendous amount of work, right?
Yeah.
You're giving up your Sunday.
Yeah.
Not only that, but then it's probably chicken week or
Right, you're
like
doing- I
you're not
know.
doing 10 different meals,
I know.
right? So
It's so
it gets
true.
boring, and then
Yeah.
boring becomes by the time you get to Thursday or Friday, you're like, man, that fast food doesn't look so bad now because I don't know
Right,
if I can do any
right.
more chicken and broccoli, right?
So true.
All of those different things, just the idea started to build about there's got to be a better way to do this.
Yeah.
And to hopefully do it in a way that we can make healthy eating convenient, we can make it affordable, we can make it accessible.
So you just
Began
started talking about this idea with your wife?
with a lot of different people,
Okay,
actually. So,
okay.
some people that I worked with that were kind of, we had like-minded
Okay.
in terms of our commitments to health. Sort of always talking about the things that we're frustrated with when we travel and
Yeah.
where are we going to eat and those types of things. And there should be a better way. So, the idea started to develop that way. I started to look online, talk to some people that I know. There's some other businesses out there that do some similar things. They're not doing it quite the same way that we were doing it, but there's a lot of everybody got into the meal prep game.
Yeah.
For a while there,
Yeah.
especially during COVID.
So I met a company prior to COVID
Yep.
that was doing it, and they actually closed down during COVID, and they never reopened.
That's crazy to me.
Unfortunately, yeah. But they did really well during COVID,
Yes.
during that time, because they were delivering food to people.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just the cost became too much for them, I believe.
Yeah.
But they never had a storefront.
Yeah.
And so I never knew like what the menu was. They were constantly updating the websites. That to me was a challenge
Yeah.
for them. Because I struggled knowing luckily I had their number. I was texting them like the cook.
Yeah.
Not everybody had that number. I was
Yeah.
like, what are you guys making this,
Yeah.
So that was a challenge for them. They didn't get, so you having the storefront, I think is something that's really unique.
Yeah. Very unique. Big risk, big advantage. Obviously, the big risk is the financial
overhead.
investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You're taking on the overhead. There's additional insurance associated with that.
Sure.
There's a lot of things that come into play.
You're paying
Even
rent.
the build out.
Yeah.
Right. And not only that, we worked against us a little bit what was going on with COVID, but our build out took place right around the same time that everything became very challenging to get your hands on, right? So
Yeah.
the expense for goods went up considerably. And so, a lot of commitment to be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
Also a huge advantage. I
Yeah.
mean, so many customers, the opportunity to walk in and see it. Most of our customers the first time will come in and go right down the counter, right? And build
Yeah.
their meal, Chipotle style, if you will. But that gives them a sense for the breadth and all the options and the variety. And so then they recognize immediately the convenience. They get comfortable with it. They start ordering online.
Yeah.
It's very easy to just swing in, grab your bag out of the fridge,
Yeah.
and you're
And
off
you
for
have
the
great
week.
hours. Which makes it easy to grab it before you're on your way to work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of risk associated with the restaurant storefront, but a lot of advantage as well. And so, I guess kind of coming back to the question of why did we get started, there was the health journey. And then obviously when COVID happened, probably just a lot of different things. My job became working from home entirely, 13
yeah.
hours a day, sitting in the same chair on Zoom meetings
Right.
all day long. Couldn't take it.
Which is hard for you now that you're like active and like physical.
It was incredible.
I'm
I can't
sure.
tell you how difficult it was.
I'm sure.
And it was really interesting that through COVID, some of the grace that you got in working in a physical building, like people understood that between one meeting and the next, you might need to stop and hit the restroom and grab a coffee.
Right.
But when you're on Zoom, somehow that went like, hey, where are you? The meeting started 2 minutes ago. And you're like, yeah, but my last one ran 5 minutes late.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I haven't seen a restroom in 4 hours.
Right, right.
A lot of difficulty associated with that. And then the other thing that really was just standing out to me throughout the pandemic was how many health issues for Americans tied directly back to diet.
Yeah.
And we certainly saw that that was true, that people were much more significantly impacted by the virus for COVID itself. But it was apparent, all of the different ailments that Americans deal with in mass, right? Related to high blood pressure, heart disease, so many different things.
Which all is brought on, a lot of it's brought on by fast food.
We are doing ourselves a tremendous disservice with the way that we eat in this country. And so
I agree.
Our goal is we want to try to help people eat better. And the way that we've got to do that is we've got to beat the fast food guys at their own game, right? How do we make it easy and convenient and affordable? So you can walk into EverPrep and you can get a meal for less than you're going to pay for your burger combo. Only you're gonna eat food that is clean, whole, fresh ingredients. Nothing is processed. Low sodium, low sugar seasonings. We use all of our own organic seasonings. We make our own sauces. We make our own marinades. So you know that what you're eating is good for you. We've got a custom nutritional calculator on our website. So if you're interested in knowing exactly where your calories and your macros come in for the meal that you built for yourself, you can go online and do that. And so we're gonna beat the fast food guys at their own game and making it just as convenient and even less expensive.
So when you started this, did you start cooking all these items, like playing with the menu? Did you start doing that for yourself?
Yeah,
and
great.
Like the sauces and all that?
Great question. So a lot of where the menu came from in terms of big picture certainly comes from being a student of nutrition and really understanding how you're supposed to eat if you are in fact trying to eat for health and eat for weight loss if that's your goal. It's not necessarily everybody's goal. Some people just want to eat clean and eat better. But that being said, I also, when you're starting a business like that, you got to be smart enough to know what you don't know and recognize and rely on experts where it makes sense to do that. And so I think I brought a lot of expertise, or I sort of joke around about enough to be dangerous in some of the different disciplines that you have to be good at in order to run a business like this. But simultaneously, I knew that I wasn't a chef. And so we went out and we resourced a consulting group comprised of a number of chefs that helped us come in, and really I said, look, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Let's develop a menu that will ensure that this food is delicious and craveable and something that people want to come back to every week. But simultaneously still delivers on those things that are most important for us, such as
what I love about
aspects.
this is why I'm sorry to cut you off, but I would love about this is that you truly are like an entrepreneur, because you're not a chef.
Correct.
And you opened up a restaurant.
For crazy, right?
It's like, but that to me is like, people who are personal trainers and they just like their goal is to open up a gym, but they know nothing about running a business or marketing a business. And you have so much experience in, executive, like you were executive in like a retail chain, if you will. So you learned, like everything that you learned, you were able to apply to this business model that you're opening up, but then also your passion and your need to live healthier. Like you combine those two and you made this great business. That's what being an entrepreneur is, but also being able to take the risk to do it, to say, oh, this is what I'm going to do. That's truly what an entrepreneur is.
Yeah, a lot of different places that you can come from, right, to be entrepreneurial. You can be that expert in that thing that you want to open, right? So, for example, there's a lot of chefs who open restaurants, and they're bringing an expertise that has tremendous value. They still have to be able to seek out the help for those pieces of the business that they don't, right? So that's where I think it's so important to be smart enough to know what you don't know. And recognize where you do need expertise that you don't yourself have. And it's cheap insurance.
It's great.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You think about, there's some expense to it, right? Well, there's way more expense to getting it wrong. And so how do you
and time consuming,
Yeah, for sure. And you don't get, and it's also incredibly expensive to launch a second time, right? So when you launch the first time and you fail so miserably that you almost have to fix it and start over again. That's way more expensive than the first launch, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But it is interesting. I sort of come to it, I guess, in some ways backwards, right? Because I do have a history, in an executive role for a sizable retailer, national footprint, multiple $1 billion, and so I joke around. I sat in more marketing meetings than even what my own discipline was, which was operations. Spent a lot of time in real estate, finance, IT, all of those things. Had enough to be dangerous, but did not have that restaurant background. Other than I love food and I want to eat healthy, right? And I'm a student of nutrition, so I knew ultimately kind of what the menu needed to look like from a nutritional value standpoint. and
Right.
what we needed to be able to do in terms of flexibility and options to be able to accommodate, people coming in. We like to say it's actually on our front window, right? Custom meal prep for everybody.
Yeah, I love that.
With everybody
Yeah.
being 2 words.
Yes.
Because whether you have a bodybuilding show in 2 weeks and you're trying to cut your last pound and a half and you're literally measuring out how many ounces of broccoli you're eating, right? If that's what you're trying to accomplish, we are the meal prep restaurant for you.
Yeah.
But if yesterday was the first time you started eating better, yesterday you were me 10 years ago and
Right.
decided it's time. We are the meal prep restaurant for you.
Yeah.
We can help you no matter where you are on that spectrum. And it was really important to us to make sure that we had a restaurant that had an offering for anybody who decided they need to be able to eat better.
I think it's a great business model, and it's a
thank
great
you.
thing you're doing for the community.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely. But I do think it's so smart that you reach out to a consulting firm when it came to like cooking, basically. I think that's super smart to do that. So let's talk a little bit about what it was like when you jumped into choosing the space, when you found the location, because that, location is the top 3 things that you have to think about when you're going to open up a restaurant.
Yep.
How did you come across? How did you find that? Talk to me about why you chose that one. And then what was it like getting through, what challenges did you have?
Oh my. Yeah. So
I know you had a lot.
Yeah. So we knew we wanted to do something for sure that was at least drivable to where I am today. I wasn't looking to pick up my family and move in order to be able to open up this restaurant.
Okay.
Ultimately we have invested in this business in a way that we want to be able to ensure that we've got it right, and then we want to replicate, right? We want to do more locations, and even in the first location, we kind of looked across this larger geographic area. So we looked in the valley, we looked out all the way out into Ventura, into Valencia, and I think I had shared with you before. We actually drew circles around the intersections that we thought we wanted to be in. One of those, and you know what? Take advantage of work people have already done for you in advance.
Okay.
Little secret, I actually looked at where all the Chick-fil-A's were and
Yeah.
said, all right, these guys have done their
Busy.
homework,
Yeah,
right?
smart.
And so they've got a sizable real estate team that I don't have.
Yep.
Let me learn from them. And so looked at some of those different opportunities. I do know that one of the things, if you think about our business model, we knew that in terms of our demographics, busy households, active households, 2-income households that their time is of the essence to them. They don't have a lot of it. They want to be able to eat well. They want to be able to take care of their kids, right?
And something convenient.
Yeah, there's no community like Santa Clarita in terms of checking all those boxes, right? A family community in which people are very committed to health.
Yeah.
You just look at all of the different gyms, all the different sports leagues, the paseos. This is a community that is about being active and healthy and living that healthy lifestyle. And so when this opportunity in this particular shopping center came available, we recognized that, we converted a retail space to a restaurant, which is incredibly expensive.
Hard to do. Yeah.
And so, but
hard to visualize and everything as well.
Yeah. And so, again, more expertise needed certainly there when you rely upon the architects. And then we also worked with a branding organization to help us really bring the brand to life.
Yeah. I love your brand. I think it's great.
Thank you very much.
It's great.
Really tricky is, we wanted to make sure that the branding and what we represented to the customer was polished enough that it lent us the credibility that we needed to recognize we weren't just trying to figure this out or shooting from the hip. Or, there's, again, we're coming into a space where, especially coming out of during COVID, a lot of meal prep companies did very, very well.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people got into meal prep, and some people even just out of their own kitchen, right, from home. And so, we needed to make sure that we differentiated ourselves in that space.
Well, you did a good job because your brand does look like it could be a franchise.
Yeah, and you know what? That also, that's what I meant by a little bit risky, is we're also still a community business. And Santa Clarita, like no other, supports their community businesses, right? This is a place that people really do get behind and want to support small business in the community. And so threading that needle of making sure that people don't walk in and think, people ask us all the time, is this a franchise or where else are you located? How many locations do you have? And when we say to them, nope, one of one.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
then they were like, can you come closer to my work?
Of course.
Start giving you location ideas. Yeah.
A lot of people have told us that for sure. Simi Valley, Northridge, some people even just over onto the east side of Santa Clarita.
Yeah, it's funny.
So working with a branding organization to help bring that vision to life was something that was incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
But I would also tell you, we didn't take an approach of, hey, create something for us. I was incredibly hands-on.
I'm sure.
In terms of directive about what we were trying to convey, what we wanted the customer to experience, how we wanted to be seen.
Yeah.
And so to be able to do that and
I'm
work
sure
with them
you
to
were.
bring that
I
to
mean,
life was
with your background, being involved
Sure.
with everything, I feel like that when you're starting something new, like you kind of have to be. So I'm glad that you were.
But I'll tell you what, a tip and a learning within that is you've got to be careful that it doesn't, like, if you're going to hire experts and then tell them what to do, right?
Right.
You're just lighting money on fire.
Yes.
Be smart enough. I think it's really important to recognize what that expertise is that you've paid for. Ensure they're not running away with it so that it's becoming something that's very different than what you want to create. You've got to, but be careful that you're the guardrails and not giving the very specifics of exactly what they are to do, because otherwise you're paying it's a lot of money
that's great advice. Yeah, that's actually great advice. Like, let the experts do their work.
Yep.
But also, that's part of the interview process is selecting people that that you feel like you like and can work with, and respect.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, we were fortunate. We actually worked with an organization out of Nashville, and just kind of knew right away that they understood us, right? They understood. They had done a lot of restaurants, but they also, one of the things that was exciting about the early stages for us, we knew we were working with the right people when we would describe the business and describe the mission of the business and see them get incredibly excited.
Oh, that's fun.
Right? There's a lot of people who are like, okay, yeah, I get it. And they were just trying to get it just for the purposes of like, okay, how do I tell your story?
Yeah.
But when you got involved with someone who got really genuinely excited to be part of what we were trying to accomplish, then we knew we had partners that were going to help us bring it to life the way that we wanted to.
Partners, not just contractors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
So you've hired a consulting firm to help you, with the chef, or with the
menu.
The menu.
Some chef design menu.
Yeah. Yep. Obviously the architect to help you map out the space because that's needed. And then a branding firm to help you dial in like your brand. Yep. What other tools? Like, let's talk about marketing too, because I know. I know you've had some I'm going to say leaps actually recently, because you've kind of been through it. How long have you been open now?
We've just crossed over 9 months.
Okay.
Yep.
Gosh, not even a year.
Yeah, not even a year. We'll be a year in December.
How long has it taken you to get to open? How long did it take you from the idea to open?
Much longer than we wanted to. That's probably the honest answer. It was almost 18 months.
Okay, that's not too bad actually.
To get the doors open.
Okay.
And so much of that was the real estate.
Yes, I'm sure.
We were coming out of COVID. A lot of the real estate offices weren't even staffed the way that they had been previously. So getting through the lease process was so painful.
Yeah.
Getting through the permitting process with the city, with the county, with health.
Yeah.
There's definitely, if there's anything I would encourage anybody to do, is you do not leave that in anyone else's hands. You've got to bird dog that. You know? I know. I think I told you, most mornings, like if I had a stamp from somewhere and I needed to get it somewhere else, I was personally standing at the door
when they opened
of the city of Santa Clarita building department the morning they opened, to walk in and be the first person to say, I've gotten this, I need your approval so I can bring it back to the contractor so they can do their net, right?
Yeah.
You've got to really babysit the process. There's a profession, sorry to offend, but there's a profession called expediters for permitting. It is a contradiction in terms. Right? All it is someone who pushes paper around, and wherever you are in the pile is where you are on the pile. It's just so that you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
If you want it expedited, you got to do it yourself.
Do it yourself. And also that's kind of good for you. You should be part of it. I mean, in a way, that's part of the time that it takes to like get your business opened. Just figure out where should you be spending your time. For you, that was it. But do you think a lot of that was just due to COVID, like coming out and they were like understaffed, or a lot of people were like at home still, or like? Yeah,
there's probably some truth to it still today, and I don't think it ever goes away completely. Right?
No, I'm sure not.
I think there was more uphill battle during that time period because people, a lot of people had been let go of their jobs and they weren't back into the offices yet. I think people were still figuring out what work from home even really looks like. Which also I think has an impact on productivity.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And so stuff just wasn't getting done as fast as it needs to get done.
learning curve with all of that, transitioning new people into roles as well as like, how do we work from home kind of a thing.
Yeah. And I think even just pace and familiarity at that time, like there wasn't a lot going on, and there wasn't a lot of new construction happening at the time. So there wasn't much happening going through these building departments, et cetera. And then all of a sudden they were just slammed.
Yeah.
And so they had to transition their pace pretty materially and pretty quickly. But to the point of, is there still something to be learned from that's applied today? Absolutely. Because I still think, being intentional to stay on top of all of those details, and when necessary, be involved yourself and show up, get your butt up and get over to the building department and get the stamp that you need so you can keep it moving along. Those are things that I think is really important.
And
that
meet
people
with the contractors on site.
Yeah.
Make sure, the AC is where you want it and all the things. I mean, I totally know from that. I've done quite a bit of construction and renovation as well. And it is important because if you leave all these kind of big decisions up to other people, it's not going to have your vision.
Yeah, for sure.
And it might become a problem down the road.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
good for you.
Yeah, got open, and then to your prior question, the marketing effort that begins at that point.
Yeah.
And man, did we learn a lot.
Did you start any marketing prior to you opening doors?
Yeah, we did. But I think in the wrong places.
Oh, okay.
It was one of our big learnings, and probably not nearly aggressive enough in what we now know to be the right places.
Yeah. What are the right places for you particularly?
Yeah. So for us, it's really all about getting in front of people who are thinking about that commitment to their health. And so that comes in a lot of different places, gyms, health fairs, anywhere that we can get in front of somebody that has given some thought to, maybe they needed a little bit of push, maybe they're doing it on their own, or maybe they're fully committed, but they're just finding it to be so time intensive that we can be a service to them. Getting in front of those people is really, really important for us.
Yeah. So face-to-face marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that I should have learned in my past and had learned, but maybe forgotten for a while and needed the reminder is you can fish in the ocean or you can fish in the fully stocked pond. And and what I mean by that is you can throw your advertisement out there on Instagram to the world at large. And you might find a lot of people who meal prep's just not even something that's, maybe you convince some of them that meal prep's a better option for them right now, but many are scrolling right past. It's just not something that they're interested in. And so you're trying to communicate to the masses when there might be a smaller audience that has any real sort of interest.
Well, the interesting thing about Instagram or social media in general, whatever it would be, is that, it's more of a wide reach and not a deep reach.
Yeah.
And you can get people that follow you and like your message and all that stuff, but they're not going to convert to customers because they're in Texas.
Yeah, likes and follows and all those things doesn't necessarily translate to sales. They could be down the street and it doesn't necessarily translate to a sale.
Yeah, and because you're not really an online business, like where you would deliver to somebody like that or wherever, like you're local, you need to be marketing local.
Yeah, and you can do some of that through some of the social media. You can be very targeted in terms of how far your reach goes in terms of the ads that you're sponsoring, but you're still just going to connect with a lot of people who right.
Well, and you're selling a food product, so you need them to taste it.
Right.
Yeah.
But if I'm standing in a gym and we've got our samples there, and everybody who's there is showing by the fact that they're there committed to their health, then you're already in a target-rich environment, right?
Yeah.
You're already in a place where this is your customer, and everybody that instead of throwing it out there where some small percentage of these people might be your customer, you're standing in a place where almost 100% of the people could be your customer.
So you shifted some of your marketing budget from like online ads to more in-person events.
Yeah, we really just kind of transitioned our approach. We've partnered with a tremendous number of gyms so that a benefit to those gyms that they can sell to their clients is that if that client is a member of that gym, then they get a discount with us.
That's awesome.
And the gyms are looking for that anyway, right? Because most of the time gyms are trying to help solve the problem for their customers who they have whatever it is that a lot of times it's weight loss, fitness, overall, what have you. You can't beat what you eat, and the gyms know that, and the trainers know that. You cannot outwork in the gym a bad diet.
Well, what do they say? 80% of it's done in the kitchen.
100, right? Yes, I was about to say 100%.
Yeah, 100% correct.
100% of the time, 80% of the time, it works all the time. But it's you can't outwork a bad diet, and the gyms know that, so they're very thankful to have.
The support
like us to be able to say, go here. This is this, because everybody's busy, and it's
Yes.
really tough to tell people to eat better
Yeah.
when you recognize the commitment that takes.
Yep.
But, even for those who are meal prepping already themselves today, a lot of our advertising is we're going to give you your Sunday back.
Yes.
Right? Go enjoy your family
Thank
and
you.
just swing through and pick up your
Yeah.
bag when you're ready.
Well, one of the things that I think I mentioned to you guys in a story one time, I tagged you because that you should target this audience as well, but
Yeah.
you might have taken it as like a joke. But we camp and we go
Yeah.
camping in our RV. We especially if you're dry camping where you don't have hookups,
Yeah.
your meals are awesome because they're just ready to go.
Yeah.
It's super easy it's already cooked.
Yep.
So it's not hard to warm it up or just eat it cold,
Yeah.
especially your breakfast items and stuff. But every time we go camping, I stop by.
It's actually been a surprise to me. And a learning is how many people travel with our meals.
Yeah.
I didn't really see that as something that would be common.
Yeah.
But I've got customers who come in, they're home on the weekend, travel to San Francisco for work, and they bring the meals with them every week. I've got a couple of truck drivers who keep them in their cabs.
Yeah.
I've got, certainly we do a tremendous amount of business with law enforcement.
Yeah.
We do a tremendous amount of business with firefighters, nurses, doctors. Actually, all first responders get a 10% discount
Which
all
is
the time with
awesome.
us. We have great appreciation for first responders and what they
Every
do.
time
they
I've
always
been in
get
there,
10%.
there's always been a police officer in there.
Right.
Every time.
Yeah,
So
funny. What's really funny is I don't know if they all talk about it together and plan this way, but
Yeah.
the number of them that always come in the day before their shift and get 3 meals. They're
Yeah.
stocking up for the next day, and then you see them a couple days later for the next shift and 3
Yeah.
meals.
Well,
we do have
listen,
some that certainly get all their meals at once,
But
it
it's
is
such a better alternative than them going to a fast food place.
Yeah.
I mean, which is what sometimes they do because that's what they have the time for.
They work really long hours, a lot of
Yeah.
overtime. We've actually started a delivery service to the detention center because the officers there,
Oh, that's awesome.
they live there, right?
Yeah.
They're there
Good for you.
16 hours. They get 8 hours. They come back, and
Yeah.
they're nobody has time to cook.
So, Matt, what would be the biggest lesson that you think you've learned starting this business? So, because you've mentioned that you would like to open up another, other locations. So, kind of going into, I'm sure you're thinking about that, but opening up another location, what would be the biggest thing that you can oh, okay, I'm not going to do that again, or
Yeah, honestly, the biggest lesson for me is it's probably going to take a little bit more time than you think it's going to.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
In my mind, I had this plan drawn out where we were starting to look for real estate 3 or 6 months after we had the first location opened up, right?
Oh, wow.
Meaning for the next location.
The next
right?
location, yeah.
And I thought that we could do enough sort of pre-planning that we'd have the majority of these bugs worked out, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my background. I came from
Yeah.
a place of launching operational process and implementation in stores on a large scale nationally, and it's when the concept of the business being so new and so many different places in which we needed to sort of work out the bugs, if you will, and the bugs don't really. It's not from the perspective of our ability to deliver products to the customer, but our ability to do that efficiently, our ability to keep costs in check,
Right.
Our ability to make sure that we're ensuring that relational experience
Yeah,
in
the
every
quality
single
of the
right,
product
the
is still
training that
good.
needs to happen, and then marketing and how do you get your message out there?
Yeah.
I thought we would be able to move faster through the social media channels and digital channels that exist today.
Right.
And so when the reality of that was not so,
You need boots on the ground.
you need boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This
Yeah.
is definitely a business that you want to really make sure that you're tying in and connecting in the community, and that
Yeah.
takes work and that takes time.
Yeah.
And so I think that was probably the biggest learning for us altogether. Now, if you had a 90-minute podcast, I would go through
There's a
the
long
rest of the
list.
learnings for you, and I get
Yeah.
about halfway done. But
Yeah.
that certainly was a big one for us.
I think that's important. It's definitely an important lesson to learn. Also, as you try to map out the future, writing down those kind of the pros and cons or whatever, might have worked out for you and what didn't work out. Then how do we delete these and go all in on these for the
Yeah.
next location? Do you plan on being statewide, or
Yeah.
what's kind of your thought?
There's a handful of different approaches, and I don't know that we
Yeah.
know which one we're going to take yet, right?
Okay.
There is the slow and steady, wins the race, self-funded all the way, right? So
Sure.
we're completely self-funded to this
awesome.
point.
Yeah.
I worked for I mentioned I worked for a national retailer
Mm-hmm.
that was independently owned, private ownership. and sort of saw from the inside what it takes to be able to grow from, one location to, over 1,000 locations nationwide, and to be able to do that, self-funded. It is a slow and steady wins the race, long time commitment to get there. But what you maintain in terms of 100% ownership has tremendous value.
Yes.
And being able to make everyday decisions that are focused not on a shareholder or not on an investor's payback, but to make really, truly the best decisions for the long-term value of the business has great value in and of itself.
I agree.
But with it comes, you're not going to go as fast, right?
You just need time.
Yeah. Now you can take on angel investors or capital in a number of different ways and grow much faster, but now you're beholden in some ways to those investors. It's very tough to not be, right? And so you have to think about what that means if that's the approach. And then, of course, you take less risk, you get less reward, right? So the profitability gets shared, right? And so those are things to think about. And then there's always franchising, which a whole nother...
I know, that's like a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
A whole nother podcast, truthfully, I feel like, with that, because there's a lot of questions there.
Yes.
That, and there's a lot of decisions to be made, really like things to look through to be able to make the right decisions.
Yeah, no question.
Is this something that you felt like maybe you would hand over to your family?
It's 100%.
And are your kids interested?
Yeah. And ultimately, one of the big reasons why we did it, I mean, I would even go back to saying, my wife loves to feed people. It is her, that's her love
awesome.
Language, right? That's, well before we ever opened the restaurant, my friends would come over for a barbecue or something, and they'd walk in the house and say, we haven't eaten all day, because we knew Cece was cooking, right? And so that's what, and it's because she loves to, and has sort of taught me to love to meet that such a basic human need for people. When you can help to nourish people, it's a way to demonstrate your care and support and service to them that's really kind of like no other. And so to have that opportunity, and then my family, I think, to so we went into it with that, recognizing it's something that it would be a business that we could all be passionate about. It also obviously creates, a long-term residual income opportunity that you don't have by being a W-2 employee, which I was all my life. And something that ultimately I'd love to be able to pass on to my kids.
I think that's a great end goal if you could,
So far we've got them up to washing dishes, and that's about all they've done, right? They're my son just of legal age to work, and my daughter not quite yet. So you got to be careful when they're in the restaurant.
That's okay. That's good.
Yeah. So
that's just teaching them, showing them how, I think, is really important. Well, I love having you on today. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you so much for having
me. Yeah. Tell people really quick where they can find you. What's your address, actually?
Yeah, of course. 24339 Magic Mountain Parkway. We're in the Target Shopping Center between Big Five and Big Chicken, so you really can't miss us.
And your website?
EverPrepMeals.com.
Okay.
You can order online. We do always recommend come in the first time, right? Go down the counter, get yourself the full experience, understand the breadth and all the different variety and the kind of virtually limitless options there are for your customization of your meal prep. And then usually once people do that, then they start ordering online with their frequency, because it's just so convenient. One button reorder. The other thing too is you can go to our site, everprepmeals.com, and you can learn all about what we do, right?
Yeah.
Custom, we're committed, 100% compostable packaging, reusable bags. There's no shipping, no freezing, no plastic, no waste. You can kind of understand our whole story about what we're trying to do there, and also ultimately what we're committed to, which is we just want to help people eat well.
Which is great. I think that's what we all want. I want to eat well, so I say thank you to that.
Thank you very much.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it. And everybody, thank you for listening or watching. And until next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ask Amanda Show. If you'd like more information on today's guest, be sure to see the show notes, or you can visit my website at askamandaconsulting.com. I'd love to hear what you thought about today's show. Please leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube, or you can rate the show if you're listening on iTunes. Thanks again for tuning in.